I thought the Spurs were supposed to be tanking this season.
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Spurs, right here on the Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for Kings 5 San Antonio. Glad to have you back. Whoa, the Spurs, they're winning. They're winning. They beat Minnesota recently. They beat the Bulls at their gym in the AT&T Center. What is going on? 2 losses on the season. That's it. 5 wins. Not a bad start for this young San Antonio Spurs team. But we're going to ask, why are they winning? What has gotten into them? We're going to be looking at that, as well as, is this Coach Pop's best start coaching-wise in his career? We got a lot to talk about, and I am joined by my good friend. He is Casey Viera, my colleague over at Kings 5 San Antonio. Casey, welcome back. I'm going to assume the Spurs are winning because you're going to the games. You're that good luck charm. You're sitting in the stands. You're just bringing that positive mojo to the AT&T.
I'm actually I haven't been since opening night, believe it or not. I mean, I know it's only been 2 games, but maybe it's because I'm not there, because the only game I went to, they lost. So it might actually be the contrary.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Make sure to follow him on Twitter at Casey_Viera. And we thank you for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts. So yeah, Casey, they are winning. Tank is in shambles right now. That tank is probably being held up by masking tape and staples, and that tank is still possible. That can still happen, but at least in the early going of the season, it ain't looking like that. This team wants to win. So let's go to start off with the eye test tells us. We'll get into the numbers in a while, but the eye test. What does the eye test tell Casey Viera why this young team is winning?
The eye test tells me that this is a bunch of guys who go out there and play hard. A bunch of guys who go out there, play hard, doing the things that we knew that were not going to be an issue, the things that they were not going to be plenty void of, for what they lack in big names and things like that. They were going to have to make up for with hustle and hard and, those things that they can control. I think we're seeing that. I think we're seeing a guy in Keldon Johnson being given an opportunity he never had before, and is maximizing it and doing a lot of things that even as a spectator, we're like, oh, I didn't know he could do that. I didn't know he could do that. And that is expected. And that is expected because we knew the ball was going to be in his hands a whole lot more this season. But I think even knowing that, I think a lot of us were kind of watching him play this year, and they're saying, you know what, the returns on this might actually be better than I thought so far.
Right.
I think you're seeing a team that has been playing opponents who are can't really get out of their own way in their own right, and are trying to look as was the case with Minnesota on a couple occasions. I mean, 3 of the 5 wins have been against the Timberwolves, and the Timberwolves have not exactly looked immaculate since acquiring this. And again, it's very
Gobert.
young. The Gobert Cat era hasn't exactly got off to the most ringing of starts. I think that's part of it. I think they're picking off teams on nights that they're susceptible to being picked off on. And you combine all those things, and you have a Spurs team right now that's 5-2 and playing largely pretty well.
For my eye test, what stands out for me is just that hustle on the court, whether it be the offensive end or the defensive end. We see a missed shot, and then rookie Blake Wesley just comes flying out of nowhere, for the tip in. We see Trey Jones on the defensive end, a loose ball, he's diving on the floor, and believe it or not, Casey, he's actually among the league leaders in loose ball recoveries. Like, he's top 10.
That is a stat.
Yeah, that's a stat.
I'm not surprised that you know that stat, but
he's top 10. And I know we're gonna get into the numbers in a bit, but my point is the hustle, this energy. And what I like about this team is and I'm going to go to the ear test, is what I like to hear from them. You have guys like Josh Richardson, Zach Collins, Keldon Johnson himself, Trey Jones, post game. What do they usually say after a win or even a loss? You're in the preseason training camp. They've all said this. We recognize that we don't have a go-to guy. We recognize we don't have that cornerstone player that we can dump the ball to. Uh, I like that. That shows humility. That shows that they have to lean on one another. And I think we're seeing a lot of that they have to lean on one another. Did you hear what Keldon Johnson had to say after they went over the Wolves at the AT&T? I
What
mean,
happened?
he rarely. Casey, you know this. I know this. We'll let the viewers, our listeners in this case, know this. Keldon is very short and sweet with his answers. He's not rude, very smiling, loves to talk, but he's very short and sweet. I have never seen him just glow about a team since he's been in the Spurs uniform the way he did in that win over Minnesota. Said that he went up to every single player before the game and told them, bring your best. You make mistakes, don't worry about it. We're all in it together. I thought that was just awesome to hear, Casey.
Yeah, and this is something we're going to come across plenty, especially, and I knew we were going to come across throughout the season. And I figured it was going to start happening a little bit later once the team started winning a little bit more games, or at least we saw more positives than in a year that's going to, in all still unlikelihood, see a lot of losing. But I think it was going to be the idea of the locker room leader and the main presence, the focal point, and their personality, and having a trickle down effect. And already you're starting to see the DeJounte wasn't a good teammate. DeJounte wasn't a good leader. That type of talk narrative. I think it's tremendously premature to have those discussions after 7 games, albeit 7 pretty good games for the Spurs, which is going to prompt that dialogue. But I think what you're kind of seeing is a trickle-down effect of having that person at the top and their personality as essentially the guy reaching the team a little bit differently. And that's not insinuating that DeJounte is a bad guy or a bad leader, but DeJounte was kind of one of these guys who was always just kind of very, stern, strictly focused on the game. You never really saw him joking, laughing, having fun, lightening up. It was always just the game and solely that. And it was always very intense. And you're saying to yourself, all right, well, cool, man. It's cool. Well, Keldon is quite the contrary to that. Keldon's very engaging. You can see Keldon having these conversations, going out of his ways to have these conversations. You can't really picture DeJounte doing that. And that doesn't mean DeJounte is a bad leader, but that's the case of, what they always say, lead by example as opposed to being the vocal leader. And I think you're looking at Keldon, he's probably a better balance of both. DeJounte's like, all right, well, you see me, you see me go out balls and do what I do, play well. I play hard, you play hard too. Keldon's a better middle ground of the two. And I think when you have that type of voice who's setting that tone, it has a trickle-down effect immediately. And everyone feels looser. The vibes feel better from the outside looking in for sure. And when you're winning, it makes things that much better too. And I think that's a conversation, definitely if they continue to keep winning, that we're really going to start having a dialogue about. But I like what we're seeing with Keldon right now.
Yeah. Again, I think you're right. We need to couch this in the sense of it's just not even 2 handfuls of games yet. 7 games in of a new season. Maybe things will shake out. We saw very similar start to last season. Remember, they went to Milwaukee and they beat Milwaukee. They went to LA and they beat the Lakers and the Clippers. And
they did.
The Spurs fans were like, "Whoa, woohoo! Title, here we come!" And you're seeing very similar path and narrative so far. I hope it continues. I mean, I know Team Tank doesn't like to hear that, but if this just shows me that maybe, Casey, they're ahead of the curve as far as development, because I didn't think it would come out like this. I really also think that Hornets loss to open the season just really shook them. It shook them. And I think they realized it was real. You saw Trey Jones say that a lot of the guys had the deer in headlights look in that opening night game. Zach Collins, the second game, the first win of the season, he made it a point to say, hey, that wasn't us. That game versus Hornets, I don't know who that team was. And they're very like, that wasn't us. We're here to compete. Vassell's been very vocal. We're not here to lose. We're here to compete. So they got that spirit. They got that competitive juice, as Popovich said after the win versus the Wolves. And you like what you're seeing on the court. So, yeah. But when we get back, we're going to look at some numbers now and crunch them and see, like, well, what are the Spurs doing right? What do the numbers tell us on this episode of Locked On Spurs with my good friend, Ken's Five's very own Casey Viera? But before we do that, I want to talk to you about LinkedIn Talent Solutions. Look, these days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager on your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you got to have and you got to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. You can add your job. You can even add a purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. Simple tools, screening questions, make it all easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus the leading competitors. Now, what you got to do is go to LinkedIn Jobs. Just Google it. It helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. Post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. We're back with Casey Viera on this episode of Locked On Spurs. We're asking why in the world are the Spurs winning? And make sure to follow Casey on Twitter at Casey_Viera. Casey, let's look at the numbers now. See what the numbers tell us. So right off the bat, I think the obvious one is they're sharing the ball. This team leads the league in assists per game. It's ridiculous how much they're sharing the ball. 31.1 assists per game after 7 games. Tops in the NBA. Casey, what do you think about that?
It speaks to not having a point guard, and somebody's got to pass the ball to one another, right? I guess.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, they're passing the ball and they're making the shots. And when you move the ball around, you make a whole bunch of threes like they've been doing.
Mm-hmm.
Generally speaking, those assist numbers, they're going to look pretty good. And here we are. Yeah, that's what I got to say to that.
Yeah, I like that. They're sharing the ball. They're leaning on each other again, and everybody has their own time to shine. Keldon Johnson spoke about that again after the Minnesota win, saying that everybody trusts one another with the ball to take that shot. It doesn't matter if it's him, it's Vassell, or Trey Jones, or Jakob, what have you. You know, they all trust one another. So you like seeing that. That is a good thing. Another thing too is I've been seeing this team come out like gangbusters to start the first. You saw them, punch teams in the mouth early after that Hornet game. And I like what we're seeing. I think it's being seen so far on the court. We mentioned the hustle stats. I said that Trey Jones is among the league leaders in loose ball recovery. They're diving on the ball. They're showing that energy, and you like it. What about bench production? That was kind of one of my X factors coming into the season. I really thought this Spurs team was going to have a good bench. And right now, Casey, 42 points per game from the reserves, and they're outscoring opponents' bench. Not by much, but still enough by 40. The opponent bench scoring about 40 points per game. What did you think about the team bench? I think it's pretty solid.
I think that, again, speaks to having only 2 or 3 guys in the starting lineup that you can confidently say are starters, and you're willing to mix and match everybody else. I think that kind of speaks to that as well. Has kind of been the case with these guys. Aside from Keldon, Vassell, Jakob Poeltl, so really, and I guess to a degree, Trey Jones, everybody else we knew on the roster in terms of getting minutes was fluid, right? So when you have no rhyme or reason like that, you can plug the bench guys in there X amount of time. Some nights you give McDermott 30 minutes, other nights you give him 13 because you got you have KDB coming out of nowhere like you did a couple nights ago and caught him on a good night. I think that's a product of that.
Yeah, and I want to go back to assist just to show you how much this team is spreading the ball. You have Trey Jones, who's leading the team right now, 5.3 assists per game. You got Devin following him with 4.5. You have Keldon with 4.1. You got Jakob Poeltl. Yes, he's top 5 in the team. 3.7 assists per game. I thought heading into the season, Casey, I said, where else can Poeltl get better? I think he is who he is at this point of his career, and apparently he's becoming a good assist man, Casey.
There you go.
There you go. Exactly.
There you go.
Other numbers that stand out. Let's talk about 3-point percentage. They're knocking down their threes. And I thought that was an Achilles heel coming into the season because in the preseason, the Spurs were shooting an abysmal about 29-28% from three line. I said, oh, God, here we go again. This is going to be their doom. Because I remember last season, how many times did we see teams just go nuts from three line? They weren't defending it. The Spurs go icy cold. But so far this season, not too shabby. You got, versus the Bulls, 42% shooting from the three line. You got them going 54% versus the Pacers earlier this season in a win. They're knocking down their threes. And Keldon Johnson is really knocking them down, isn't he, Casey?
Yeah. and the rate that he's doing, I mean, I knew he's been an improved shooter, but I mean, I think it's the what he's catching his shots. It's not just the catch and shoot that we're used to. It's pulling up, and I should say it's creating, and like, oh, you know what? Who is this guy? Like it's been refreshing seeing him get these touches because we're starting to see a lot of parts of his game that we didn't know he had, at least for 7 games at least.
Yeah. What else have you seen out of Keldon that you like? We know the three line, he's knocking him down, but is there anything else you're noticing from him on the court?
I think since he lost all that weight, he really looks a lot smoother. I really do. I really do. And I think that maybe that's part of the reason watching it, like, man, he looks like what is it this year that looks different? I think whether how much of an intent that was there to slim down and drop whatever he said did he say 20 pounds? He said 20 pounds,
he said
right?
20 pounds. Yeah, he lost 20 pounds.
I mean, he looks it. He looks it. And I mean, maybe he slimmed down to knowing he was going to be playing the part that he's playing right now, but it looks like someone who is starting to have things come together. A lot of the question marks that we have, whether it be shot creation, whether it be keeping, playing in control and not just some sort of running back, get the ball in the paint and just, get by with your size half the time like he did first 3 years he was in the league. It looks like a guy who's starting to have a lot of the game come to him, and he's starting to play. He's starting to play in control, and that's, of course, to the betterment of this Spurs team right now, because we haven't, Spurs haven't seen that. The Spurs haven't seen that in this guy, whether it be a product of not having the opportunities, given DeJounte and DeMar were here, whether it's, just becoming a better basketball player in year 4, not being the same guy he is in year 2. That's probably the majority of it. He looks good. You have to acknowledge it. I mean, he looks good on various fronts so far.
We cannot, forget about Devin Vassell. After a very slow start in that game 1 to open the season, he's come on like gangbusters. What do the numbers show us? Well, he's definitely that 1-2 punch right next to Keldon, second in the on the team in scoring, 19.8 points per game. Rebounding, he's third, 5.0 a game. Minutes, he's right behind Keldon, 32.5 minutes per game. Steals, 1.3. He's tied among the league team leaders in that category. Devin has really come on, hasn't he?
Well, he's got to get on the court. I mean, he's off to a good start, but he's been hurt.
Yeah. Not a bad start then.
Yeah. I mean, he's been banged up, but I'd like to see him get healthy first. But first couple nights, looking really encouraging. That's for sure. Same deal though. It's like getting those offensive reps in now, or I should say, getting the volume in now, taking advantage of it, and that's what he's been doing.
Yeah. Do you like that combo, Keldon and Vassell? Who's your go-to guy if you have to dump the ball into one of those guys? Game's on the line. Who are you giving the ball to?
Keldon.
Yeah.
Yeah, Keldon. I mean, I'd rather have Steph Curry if the opportunity presented itself, or
I think we all would.
I'm saying Kelvin, but I'm just kind of, I don't want to say it's a by default thing, but in the context of the situation, yeah, I'll go Kelvin.
Absolutely, yeah. So those are some of the numbers from individual players to the team. They are looking good right now. Who knows if this thing will, turn right side up? Right now, I always say we're in the upside down world, and from Stranger Things, it feels like we're in the upside down. Utah's winning, the Lakers are losing, the Spurs are winning, Spurs are beating teams. It's definitely is the upside down, but hopefully it'll stay that way, especially if you're not on Team Tank. Well, when we get back, we're going to ask Casey, is this the best coaching start to a season from Gregg Popovich? We're going to be doing that and a lot more in this episode of Locked On Spurs. We're back with Casey Viera right here on Locked On Spurs, discussing your silver and black. Just quickly, I want to thank you for making Locked On Spurs your first listen today. Second listen today, check out Locked On Sports Today. From the games that matter the most to the biggest storylines in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today, available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get podcasts. So no franchise player, no megastar on this roster, and the team is 5-2. Popovich even went out to say, hey, everybody, don't go to Vegas, don't go betting on us, because it ain't going to be pretty. But so far, it's been pretty. Casey, has this been one of Pop's best start in coaching-wise in his career?
To be fair, he said, don't bet on us to win the championship. It's probably not going to happen. He didn't say, he did not say,
interesting,
don't bet on us because it's going to be ugly basketball.
Yeah.
He's very calculated. I mean, he's saying this and we're thinking, we know they're going to lose a bunch of games. They still probably are. But he's a little bit more calculated than I think we give him credit for. But listen, I don't want to say it's. I don't want to say like get too hyped, if you will, too prematurely, because this is a 7-game sample size that we've had. So to place any kind of label as to something is the greatest start that he's ever done or anything along those lines without a real true context behind it, given the situation, I think that'd be premature for me to do that. But Gregg Popovich, through 7 games, has never had a team on paper as bad, as inexperienced on paper going into any season like he's had this year. And the fact that these guys are 5-2 would tell you that if you have this roster presently constructed that's not exactly world beaters and you're 5-2, that's a pretty good damn job. That's a pretty damn good job to start the season.
Yeah.
So for the sake of that, we'll say this is one of the better jobs he's had to start a year.
Yeah, I agree with you. To take practically a bunch of teenagers for the most part and get them to win, get them to beat a DeMar DeRozan-led Bulls team, to go to the Wolves gym and beat them once, and not just beat them, like just curb stomp them, 35-point beat down at one point. You got to tip your hat to Pop. So far so good. Now, again, you got to couch it. Yes, it is just a 7-game sample. These teams, other teams, their opponents, they're trying to figure their way out too. But if this is what he's getting these guys to do, to believe in themselves, or as he said, Casey, what does he say? They're obeying the basketball gods. So if he's just doing that, getting them to obey the basketball gods, then kudos, because this is a team devoid of a megastar. Yeah.
Yeah. They're listening.
Yeah, they're listening. Yeah, they're definitely listening. And he is, he's, at least so far, not a bang up job. See, I don't want to get too excited because my gut feeling is that something bad's going to happen. Not an injury wise, something like they're just going to hit this this wall, or these teams are going to be like, you know what? We're going to come out and maybe we're not going to take it so easy on the Spurs. Because you got to figure that. Don't you think that the opposing team, the talent, if it is on paper leaning more towards the opposing team, that should win out?
Oh, that's going to be the case every night. I mean, that's going to be the case every night.
Yeah.
What? Oh, I'm saying what? What are you saying?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you had a thought there. I think we cut off for a bit. But I get that. But you got a Cat and a Gobert and an Anthony Edwards. And on paper, that talent should beat a Spurs team without that type of talent. And it's been the opposite so far. My thing is, I think as the season goes on, we'll see the teams get settled in perhaps and be like, all right, we got this game. And then, the tank is back on, Casey.
Yeah, I mean, it's, again, I don't want to get too excited because Spurs fans are probably not going to have a whole lot to cheer about from a terms of wins and losses standpoint when we get outside the next few months. So I'm kind of like, you know what? Let's ride it out. Let's feel good. Let's make some over the top claims and say some wild things and see what goes down like that. But when you actually start thinking about it, like, hey, you know what? Maybe they do have a chance. I don't know.
Yeah.
But then I gotta let perspective get back in and just say, you know what? I know what we have. Let's not go nuts. Yeah.
Or maybe as simple as Popovich said after the recent win. He goes, maybe these guys are they're not realize they're supposed to lose. Like they're not getting it.
Yeah.
Like wait, what? We're supposed to lose?
I mean, could be.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where it's just like, how do you people getting mad at these at the wins? It's like you can't really tell a team to lose, or say all these things about tanking and whatnot, and expect them to not get some sort of motivation that we've been seeing. Like the big thing has been with Vassell, because he had the thing on Instagram where he was just like, what, like, enough of talking about this Wemby dude, like get off my IG stream talking about that. I don't want that energy. You're not going to be able to convince a bunch of young dudes to lose, to be a losing team. You just can't. You're not going to do it. But then you factor in the fact that not only is this are these guys expected to lose, but it's just guys who are trying to prove themselves by pure NBA standards anyways, just to make it, because they're a bunch of first, second, third year kids in the league. Guys like Keldon Johnson, who's 4 years into this thing and getting the most prominent, I guess, playing the most prominent role in his career. They're not gonna, they're not exactly going to be particularly thrilled to hear people say, oh, lose. We want you to lose. There's so much negative energy. So I think for them, they're like, you know what? No, we know what we're doing. We work hard, we grind. Why should we go out here and have this belief that, hey, if we lose, it's okay. It's okay. Like, nobody's believing in us. Let's go out. Let's have fun with this thing. Let's show them what we can do, and they're doing that so far.
Absolutely. Well, the Spurs are off to a great start to the season. They got a couple of days off. They'll next play the Raptors at the ATT. So if you're in San Antonio, go check them out. Casey, tell us what you got cooking over there at Kens 5.
Oh, what do we have cooking? Football season, high school football season, almost over. Entering the last week, the regular season on Friday, and the postseason starts, and then Spurs. But
that team.
Yeah, that's those guys.
Hey, wait, and then you got down the road. I don't know. Don't correct me if I'm wrong, but you got maybe a splash of Brahmas football.
Oh,
the XFL.
Yeah, that's right. Down the road of February, right? February.
I gotta ask you think another league will survive in San Antonio, or is San Antonio fans gonna get heartbroken again?
I'm not the guy to ask about that.
By the way, are you okay with your Yankees getting smoked in the postseason?
Okay with it? No. Expected? Yeah. Yeah. Did I expect it? Absolutely.
Oh, you expected the Houston
Absolutely.
just to steamroll them, huh?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, really?
Because
Really?
you
I
can't,
thought I
yeah.
thought I thought the Yankees had an outside, like at least make it competitive at minimum.
I thought they were going to go lose in 6 games. I didn't expect them to get swept.
Wow.
But I did not expect them to win. No, I did not.
That's what I'm with you. I thought it would be competitive, a series,
Yeah.
5, 6 games.
Yeah.
I didn't expect them to just get steamrolled the way they did.
No, neither did
I remember at one point I looked up and it was the game just started. I think I walked away for a few minutes, came back 5-0. I'm like, what?
Yeah,
What?
you can't. I don't know who does Locked On Yankees, but you get me started. I might have to hit them up. But yeah, it's like you can't run back the same product every single year. Expect a different result. It's like they say the insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expect. Yeah, like that's what they're doing. They're running back like 17. They saw what it takes, to get to the party, what it takes to be a playoff team. Cool. They ran it back the next year in 18. Fine. But then they realized that, okay, so maybe we shouldn't run out a team that lives primarily on home runs and strikeouts, because home runs and strikeouts, it can only go so far in the postseason. Well, 19, you face the Astros again, and Justin Verlander has you dancing all over the plate because you home run, strikeout. 20 and 21, doing the same thing. So let's go to 2022. Maybe we'll run back something different. Nope, do the same thing. So right. It's like I don't, everyone was getting all caught up in the, in the wins early in the season and the Judge stuff. I'm like, all right, cool. Call me back when he's not like Justin Verlander doesn't have him dancing around the batter's box because he can't hit a breaking ball. I didn't expect them to get swept, but I did not think they were going to win. No.
Well, Casey's on his Yankee soapbox right now. Look at him. Yeah. Look at him go. Look at him go. It's funny. Yesterday's Locked On Spurs, we had James Pledger, very vocal about his Astros. He's a Houston Astros fan. So we had that yesterday. He kind of went off too at the end. Now we have Casey Viera, the Yankee fan, going off on the opposite direction. It's turned into Locked On Yankees for the last segment. Yesterday was ending of Locked On Spurs, turned into Locked On Astros, and now here we go again. But yep, exactly. Make sure to follow Casey on Twitter at Casey_Viera and check him out holding it down on the sports desk on Ken's 5 on the weekends, Thursday through Sunday. Subscribe to Locked On Spurs wherever you get your favorite podcast. We thank you for making Locked On Spurs your first listen. Again, check out Locked On Sports Today podcast, the biggest stories of the day, plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day. Available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get podcasts. And subscribe to Locked On Spurs wherever you get podcasts. The YouTube page, Ken's 5 Plus app. You can see Casey and myself there, and much, much more. So for Casey Viera, I am Jeff Garcia. We're going to put a lock on this episode of Locked On Spurs.